I did notice for the midterm, one of the questions I felt a lot more confident on were the ones that we'd done, or was over material that we learned in class instead of trying to do it from the videos.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, well, do these videos help you? I mean,
the videos work, it just takes me a lot longer because I usually can't read the projector. So I'm just sitting there and end up stopping and starting for about 2 hours so I can copy down everything before you said.
now do you have the subtitles on?
I don't have subtitles on, I can hear what you're saying clearly, I just can't see.
Okay, well the subtitles sometimes might be a good substitute. And I'm trying to get better images. Okay. Now, we're not going to have a quiz this upcoming week, basically because we covered through the Republic. And now we're going to begin early statehood.
Okay.
Basically, this was, kind of the years from 1846 to 1861 are unique because we go from being, before this, we've gone from being a Spanish province to being a part of the Mexican nation to being our own nation to now being a part of a new nation. And we don't really have time to acclimate to everything before we get into a civil war where we're trying to get out of the nation we just got into. And the first part of this series is kind of the boring political stuff, but we got to go through it so we can get to the stuff later. Hi, make sure you get a towel to wipe off your seat or your desk. And the first thing we have with the establishment of a state government is we have the Consultation of 1845, or the Constitution. A big leader in the authorship of this was Thomas Jefferson Rusk. And it did things like set term limitations and also limited the legislature to meeting only once every 2 years. But one of the things that was kind of forward thinking about this was that married women were made secure in their rights to own property. And property of 200 acres or more on a homestead was exempt from foreclosure for debt, following the old homestead law. J. Pinckney Henderson was elected our first governor. And he is about to face a very, very big issue. That is a consequence of Texas's annexation. The war with Mexico. Now, the causes were the annexation of Texas itself, the desire of the U.S. to acquire part or all of California, the inability or unwillingness of the Mexican government to settle claims by citizens of the United States, the instability of the Mexican government, as well as where we're going to put the boundary. Because you remember, even throughout all of Texas's years as a republic, we claimed the Rio Grande River as the southernmost boundary, but the boundary ever since Spain and Mexico had owned us was the Nueces River, which made this Texas not all of that Texas. However, kind of verifying Texas's claims to the Rio Grande River, Mexican military forces, for the most part, except when they came in and took over San Antonio for a day or two, remained south of the Rio Grande River. Now, we sent Ambassador John Slidell of Louisiana to go talk to Mexico, where we tried to secure the southernmost boundary of of Texas as the Rio Grande River. He also was supposed to open up talks with Mexico about California and New Mexico. And he was going to pay $5 million just for the southern boundary of Texas being the Rio Grande River. We were willing to pay that. Well, the only problem is, though, Mexico refuses to meet with him. So General Zachary Taylor is sent to the mouth of the Nueces River with American troops where modern day Corpus Christi is. And General Pedro Ampidia, Mexican general, is dispatched to Matamoros. Got it. And then, May 13th, 1846 happens. What happens then is basically a squadron. They start to move south from Corpus Christi down into the disputed area. They set up a fort that they named Fort Texas, right across from Matamoros. Matamoros starts firing at Fort Texas, killing the commander, William Brown. So they changed the name of Fort Texas to Fort Brown. And the city that grows up next to it is known as Brownsville. Now, on the very next day, an American unit doing reconnaissance and a Mexican unit doing reconnaissance meet at the Resaca de Palma. Resaca is kind of an empty riverbed where the river used to flow, but then the river changed course. And if you want to know where the Resaca de Palma supposedly is, in Brownsville, Texas, right by the edge of the parking lot near a strip mall, is a historical marker. Says, hey, this is where it happened. Anyway, the two sides saw each other, shot at each other. 2 Americans were wounded. 1 Mexican soldado was wounded as well. Both sides go back to their garrisons, and the newspapers in America are able to print out that American blood was shed on American soil. And we're ready to go to war with Mexico. The only deal is, it wasn't a very popular war with the rest of the United States. Now, why might this not have been a popular war? What was the big bugaboo that nobody wanted to talk about that's going on after the Civil War? And with every new state that comes in, there's a huge argument and a lot of fear.
You mean before the Civil War?
Yeah, before the Civil War.
Slavery versus no slavery, having the
Yeah,
seats.
basically the slavery issue. And a lot of people did not, because this just meant, even according to the Missouri Compromise, which said all land below 3630 is slave, all above is free. We thought we had it nice, we thought we had it neat. Well, guys, this meant that all of this area over here might be opportune for slavery to expand to. Even though geographically slavery had reached its natural limit, it didn't matter. Okay? People were scared. Anyway, the Texan forces, I checked out a film from the library, so we'll be stopping in about 5 more minutes. It's about the Republic of Texas and the war with Mexico. The Texas Rangers which basically was our army during our republic. They fought alongside the U.S. Army, helping to win decisive victories at like Monterrey and at Buena Vista, where Santa Anna, leading Mexican troops, caught General Zachary Taylor almost by surprise. Had it not been for a scouting party of Texas Rangers that sent some of the guys to go back and warn Zachary Taylor, the other guys stayed in the mountain pass, surrendering their lives to delay the advance of the Mexican army by 30 minutes, but a crucial time. Anyway, the Mexican War, General Scott, the Navy begins a bombardment of Veracruz, killing hundreds of civilians. Troops are landed. They march into the interior. Santa Anna, who was up at Buena Vista, he says, oh crap. He turns around to go back on the second day of the battle. And because he left the field of battle, the Americans say they won. Anyway, we go in and we capture Mexico City. And we force Mexico to sign the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which ended the war. We took about a quarter of Mexico's territory because they surrendered all this land. And they also agreed that, yes, the southernmost boundary of Texas would be the Rio Grande River. And maybe because America loves its little sense of irony, we had offered them $5 million before the war. And once the war is over, we go ahead and we give them the $5 million. Oh, here it is. Okay. Now, should we start? We'll go a little through New Mexico. Now, as you can see, with us having the boundary here, it causes problems with New Mexico because General Stephen Kearny, who was the leader of the U.S. troops, basically, when he captures Santa Fe, which surrenders to him, he tells them to go ahead and start up a civil government. Now, even though Texas had tried the Santa Fe expedition when she was a republic and that ended up in total failure, well, they kind of people are worried about, of course, the slavery expansion, but then the people of Santa Fe go ahead and start their own convention for statehood as well as a petition. And in reaction to that, in December of 31st of 1849, we make the county of Santa Fe for Texas. And we send commissioners out to New Mexico to designate counties that are going to be under Texas. Well, the people in New Mexico don't like that. And and they say, no, we're a part of a separate state. Our governor says he's going to send 7 militia units out to New Mexico to make sure that it stays part of Texas, which our president, Millard Fillmore, totally disagrees with. Well, we kind of make a temporary resolution to the boundary. Basically, we set the northernmost boundary of Texas at 36 degrees, 30 minutes. And all this land over here is basically sold to the United States of America. And Texas is going to be compensated for that. Basically to help pay off its debts, solve this problem, and in the Compromise of 1850, it makes it legal. Now guys, what was so... Does anybody remember that number 36 degrees, 30 minutes? Because that's the very tippy top of our panhandle. According to the Missouri Compromise, that was the line of latitude that under which would be slave and above which would be free. Which, back in 1824, when the Missouri Compromise was originally given, the people of the South could agree with. Y'all want to know basically why? Because all the cash crops didn't grow well above 36 degrees, 30 minutes. Everybody gone? Oh, and by the way, sorry I couldn't put these into a PDF before the class, but the computer that I was using apparently didn't have Adobe Acrobat on it and couldn't do that. So I apologize. You ready? The settlement of the debt. Well, after the U.S. bought all that land from us, after the land sale and after we pay off all our debts we had accrued underneath our years of independence and revolution, we had $3.75 million left. With that money, $2 million of it went to an endowment for the public school system. And for 6 years, all of the counties in Texas, we returned 9/10 of all the taxes they had turned into the state. Now, guys, why do you think the government in Texas did that?
Makes it easier for people to move in if the business costs are lower because of taxes. People are more likely to move there for the next couple of years so they can get a jump start into their economy as any part of the United States.
All those are great ideas, but also these counties have nothing. So you've got Dallas. Dallas was actually a city. That, let's say, it gave $100,000 to Austin for taxes. Austin sent us back $90,000. If Dallas is smart, what is it going to do? It's going to start building schools. It's going to start building post offices. It's going to start, roads. Basically investing in infrastructure, to help keep the settlers that come. Instead of just saying, no, I'm going out to farmland. I'm going, hey, well, I might be able to make some money in this city. But yeah, the politics of statehood. Okay, this is when we go through a litany of governors, which many of y'all will find incredibly boring. Even though they're cool, I kind of cherry picked some of them. And first one that's kind of an old Texan, because he had been here a long time, was in 1854, Elisha M. Pease was elected governor of Texas. And he was an active and able governor. His platform called for the establishment of a public school system. He encouraged internal improvements like transportation facilities. And he tried to pacify the frontier. And in his attempts to bring peaceful relations with Native Americans that would work with us, he started 3 temporary Indian reservations. And they were given pretty good land. Well, before this, I told you that the political parties in Texas, like the whole Whig and Democrat thing, was kind of new to us. So it shouldn't come in as a surprise that in 1856, the Know Nothing Party rose to prominence in Texas. And what is the Know Nothing Party? Well, that you're just going to have to find out next time. Let's all go to the movie. Now we'll show the documentary. Oh, I'll show it to the class in case they want to check it out from the library. The name of the movie is Lone Star Legacy, the Texas Republic and the Mexican War. You can check it out at the library.